Shalom. I want to give all the praise, all the glory, all the honor unto Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahushai, Bahashim, Rakak, Kudash. Double honors goes out to the elder apostles of Great Millstone for teaching me the truth. Also want to acknowledge all the Akyam who are pushing the truth with sincerity throughout the four corners of the earth. And shalom to the elect of the nation of Israel. All right, and this is Shabbai from the GMS Denver camp. And I'm going to go in through the Spirit today on, the micro C-hip, the mark of the beast, okay, in the Bible. And this is part of it, all right, because this is dealing with the brain chip implant. And Apple is getting ready to start, making this thing available to these people. All right, to these Babylonians. Let's read it. It says, the Apple is developing brain implants in partnership with Synchron, which will allow users to control Apple devices with their thoughts. This is achieved by implanting a brain-computer interface device like Synchron's Stinrod in the brain, which translates neural signals into commands for the devices. The technology is designed to improve accessibility for people with disabilities, enabling them to use Apple devices without needing physical movement or voice commands. Right? And it gives you a more detailed explanation. It says, Stinrod is a brain implant is inserted into a vein near the motor cortex, enabling it to read neural signals. So it's giving you this ability to control your Apple devices, right? Your iPhones, even your iPads, Apple Vision Pro screens, just with your mind, all right? You don't have to have you don't have to have any physical touch or anything like that. You just use your brain to do this. And, this is straight out the Bible, man. We've been prophesying on this. It's the micro C-hip, aka the mark of the beast in the Bible. And I'm gonna get that verse, those scriptures. But give me a second. Let me get this other verse in Thessalonians. Okay, let's see. Actually, you know what? I don't know why I said Thessalonians. Well, let's go to the first scripture I'm going to grab real quick here is going to be Matthew 24 and 24. It says, for there shall arise false Hamashiachs and false prophets, and shall show great signs and wonders, in so much that if it were possible, they shall deceive the very elect. Okay? And the signs and wonders, that's what this is, man. This is a sign. It's a wonder. It's a sign of the times, what time we're in, and it's a wonder because you wonder what the mark of the beast is, and this is the mark of the beast right here. This is the basically a miracle on the left-hand side, right? Because isn't that like a miracle? Let's get that word miracle real quick. Let's see. All right, here's one of the definitions. It says, okay, well, I'll read a couple. This is in the, let me see. This is in the Oxford Dictionary, the definition of miracle. And I'm going to go ahead and read it all, okay? The first one, as a noun, it says, a surprising and welcome event that is not explicable by natural or scientific laws and is therefore considered to be work of a divine agency. All right, and that is miracles. There's going to be miracles on the right hand side and miracles on the left hand side. And the miracles from the right hand side are the miracles that, like brothers getting spiritual powers, or Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, feeding us in the time of when everybody has this device, this wicked device, the micro C hip. Okay, so that'll be a miracle of a divine agency. That divine agency is Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. All right, but then you have miracles on the left-hand side. Remember, the Lord Yahweh Bashem Yahushai has given this devil great power, and including nuclear technology, this type of technology we're reading about in the where the Apple's about to start doing, implanting brain chips in people, giving them that option, and you see how crazy people go when the new iPhone is released. This is the same thing. It'll be no different when people are presented this option to get an interface micro C hip inside their brain, so they can control their fucking technology. They can control their phones, their iPads, by having a brain chip implant inserted into their motherfucking head. Reading neural signs, neurology, neurological signals by using this device that they're coming to. So if you weren't in the know, when the ones that are in the know are the elect. That's why it says, let me read the last part. Well, I'll read it again. For Matthew 24:24, for there shall arise false Hamashiachs and false prophets, and shall show great signs and wonders, in so much that if it were possible, they shall deceive the very elect. So, point being, you're going to have people that are going to jump on this opportunity to get this micro C hip put in their brain, so they can activate their devices just by their thoughts, not having to use a touch screen with your fingers or your hand, not having to hit the power button on your phone. No, you're going to do all this stuff on your thoughts, merely just your thoughts alone. So this is a sign or a wonder, a great sign or a wonder. And if it's possible that which it's not possible to deceive the elect, you can only deceive these 2/3 and these heathen, which those are the ones who are going to take these devices, because they haven't built up their spirit, and they don't have that hedge or protection around them that comes when you repent to the true power, Yahweh and His Son Yahweh Shai. All right. Let me read this other part of the definition for miracle. It says, a highly improbable or extraordinary event, development, or accomplishment that brings welcome consequences. Right? So like if you look into the brain chip, if you look it up on the internet, you can find a lot of videos on Neuralink, right? Which that's the same technology, but it's a different company. Neuralink is Elon Musk's company, but his is already been implanted in I think about maybe 2 or 3, maybe more. I'm not sure. I haven't really researched it lately, which I should. But they've already implemented this thing, implanted this thing in people who are like paraplegics or totally paralyzed. They can't move their arms, they can't move their legs, and they if you look it up, you can find a lot of stuff on the Neuralink brain chip and the people that have already have been implanted with that. But anyway, these people, it looks like it's an accomplishment. It's a great or a welcome consequence, like it says here in the definition of miracle, because that's a welcome thing for somebody who can't move their arms or move their legs, right? Oh, all I got to do is use my thoughts to play a video game, or use my thoughts to turn on my phone, or whatever the case is, right? So this is, we're living in these times, man. The vibrations on the planet Earth are fucking wicked as hell. And if you don't have a hedge, you don't have you're not in the fold of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, it's going to be tough for you to do anything. You're basically set up for destruction at the end of the day. Let me read this other definition. It says an amazing, this is for miracle, right? I'm still reading it. It says an amazing product or achievement or an outstanding example of something, right? And the similar words is wonder. That's why it says right here, show great signs and wonders. This is basically a miracle. You know, you go back to the 70s, the 80s, you know, maybe even the 90s, and people were not thinking that this type of things would be manifested. These type of things would be available to them. A phenomenon, a sensation, a marvel, wonder. You see? Miracle. This is all a part of the definition. I'm still on the definition of miracle in the Oxford Dictionary. You see? But this is what it is, you know, and it's right here is like probably the most on point definition or dealing with that Apple brain chip. It says an amazing product or achievement or an outstanding example of something. See that? So, you know, that's what it is, man. Let me see if I can still have that up. Man, I need to get a new phone. I have 3 phones and they're all shitty. They don't work that great. But anyway, they'd already closed that out. But we read about that brain chip that Apple is going to introduce and start using, and it's going to be made available to all these 2/3 of these heathen who are going to jump. A lot of them are going to just jump on it, man, not knowing what's really happening, what's really going on here at the end of the day. Because we know that's the micro C hip, and let's read it. It says in Revelation 13:13, and he doeth great wonders, and that, what is it? A wonder is a miracle, so that he maketh fire come down from heaven in the sight of men, and deceiveth them that dwell on the earth by means of those miracles, which a miracle is a wonder, which he had power to do in the sight of the beast, saying to them that dwell on the earth, that they should make an image to the beast, which had the wound by a sword and did live, and he had power to give life unto the image of the beast, and the image of the beast should both speak and cause as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. Because there's going to come a time, just like they did with the vaccination, the jump shot, right? If you get my point, catch my drift, right? It was at first, it was optional, and then it became mandatory, okay? Well, that was a test run for what their true agenda is. And their true agenda is what we're reading here in Revelation 13, is for most people to receive this mark of the beast, which is the RFID micro C hip, and it comes in 2 forms. Let's read verse 16. And he causeth all, both small and great, in that he is dealing with the wicked, the so-called white man, the devil, according to the prophecy, according to the Bible. He says, and he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads, and that no man might buy or sell, save that he had the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name. Okay, so we'll stop right there. You're not going to be able to buy or sell, because eventually he's going to use this as it's going to be a law. You're going to have, it's going to be mandated that you take these devices, either one in your forehead, like we read about, the Apple brain chip, the Neuralink brain chip, or you take it in your right hand. Right, but one way or another, you're going to have that device to function in society. I remember when they were doing the jump shot, making that mandatory, the ouchie Fauci, we can't say certain words because the algorithms pick up, and then our videos get canceled, and we get strikes on our channel. So that's why we have to speak in code sometimes. But the ouchie Fauci or the jump shot, the vaccination, all right? All these things, this is all leading to this. When they did that, when they implemented that back in 2020, when you had the world shut down for a while, for a season, hey, it was at first optional, and then they made it mandatory, and then you had people on the news, saying, hey, our goal is to make life, make it, difficult to move in your daily life, if you didn't have that jump shot, if you didn't have that vaccination, if you didn't have that the Fauci ouchie, right? If you didn't have that, you couldn't go to a restaurant, you couldn't go to certain stores, you couldn't go to a movie, you couldn't go to anything for a while there. You know, you had to show proof that you were vaccinated, okay? So now they're coming out with everything starting to show itself, manifest, okay? It says here, and he causes all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads, and that no man might buy or sell save he that had the mark, or the name of the beast, or the name of his number of his name. And I do know that one of oh man, what's the number? The word I'm looking for, patent. The word, one of the patents, the number on the micro C hip. The last numbers were 060606. Okay, you can do some research on that. And I've read it. I've looked into it after I had seen it in the past, and I looked it up again, and it had said one time that it's not true, that the patent number is not 060606. But you know, through the Spirit, we at the end of the day, we know what the micro C hip. We know what the mark of the beast is. All right, GMS has been at the forefront of this prophecy and have been warning the people as we're supposed to. The true prophets, you got to understand and remember, the true prophets warn the people. We're not those dogs that don't bark. That, you know, those are the false prophets. You know, they're compared to dogs that with no bark. Meaning they don't, you know, a dog is going to bark when something's about to happen, when the thief is coming, or when an intruder is coming to your home. You know, the dog will start barking if he's a good guard dog, right? Well, that's what the true prophets are likened unto, the dogs who actually are going to bark, meaning give you a warning. Okay? But it says, here is wisdom. Let him that hath understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 666. All right, you see that? Let me see here. Let's go to this verse real quick since I brought it up. Isaiah 56:10, it says, his watchmen are blind, they are all ignorant, they are all dumb dogs, they cannot bark, sleeping, lying down, loving to slumber. See? And that's talking about the false prophets, because remember, prophets are watchmen, right? We're the watchmen. We watch the news articles, we watch the current events. That's how we measure the time diligently. Okay? So when you're a false prophet, you're going to be ignorant. You're going to be like a dumb dog. What does the word dumb mean? It means you don't speak or you don't bark in this case. No, we've been barking the minute GMS. You know? So this is what it is, man. You know, you're going to have false prophets that are not going to give you the true warning and warn you from what's about to happen. You know, but we know what's about to happen. Because why? We're prophets. And it's because of the Holy Spirit. It's because if Yahweh Bashem, Yahweh Shai is dealing with you, and the Holy Spirit's dealing with you, then guess what? You're going to have that ability to bark. You're going to have that understanding on how to break down these scriptures the right way. Okay? Let me get this real quick too. What is it? I think it's 2 Corinthians 2:11. It says, lest Satan should get advantage of us, for we are not ignorant of his devices. Okay? Now let's get that definition for device. Here's two definitions, right? It says, as a noun, it says a device, and this is I'm in the Oxford Dictionary again online. It says a thing made or adapted for a particular purpose, especially a piece of mechanical or electronic equipment. All right, we just read, or here's a similar word: an implement, gadget, a utensil, tool. You see, this is a gadget. This is Made me think of Inspector Gadget. That's basically what Esau is, Inspector Gadget. He's making all these devices. And remember, Inspector Gadget, he was like a bionic. And that's what this chip is going to make you, you 2/3 in you heathen. When you take that, you're basically going to be like let me get the definition for bionic too. But you see what I'm saying? The device. And here's another definition for device. The second definition for device on the Oxford Dictionary online and Google, it says a plan, a method, or a trick with a particular aim. Okay? So guess what? This is their plan. Their agenda is to put a micro C-hip in you, whether it's in your hand or in your forehead. Esau Edom wants that in there so he can give you total control. That's why he's coming out with his digital currency. The digital currency is all set up because why? It's going to be stored. It's going to be accounted for along with all your personal information on these devices. Okay? So it says a plan, a method, or a trick with a particular aim. All right? So all these things, line up with the scriptures. Okay? And we read in Revelation 13 and 16 that everybody's going to, free and bond, everybody's going to be presented this device. It tells you that in Revelation also. Let's grab that. Revelation 3 and 10. It says, this is Yahushua speaking to the elect, because thou hast kept the word of my patience, I will also keep thee from the hour of temptation, which shall come upon all the world to try them that dwell upon the earth. Behold, I come quickly, hold that fast which thou hast, that no man take thy crown. So yeah, if you're the elect, guess what? Yahweh Bashem Yoshai, the spirit of Yahweh Bashem Yoshai is going to keep us from that hour of temptation. The hour of temptation is because, like I told you earlier, you're going to have a device in you. Otherwise, you can't move in society. You won't be able to buy or sell. You ain't going to be able to enter into a public, a public assembly, a public, building, a public, like a mall or anywhere. You won't be able to move without this device. And GMS has been at the forefront. We've been telling y'all this is coming, and it's here. Okay? It says here, because thou hast kept the word of my patience, I will also keep thee from the hour of temptation. Because for these 2/3 and these heathen, they're going to be so tempted, because you have a lot of people that are like, there's no way I'm going to put a device in my body or my forehead or my hand. But then when they see their kids are not eating, or when they can't go to work, they can't go to the store, they can't do nothing, they can't move in society, guess what? They're going to be overcome with temptation, and they're going to fold in adversity because they haven't been building up their spirit. This verse right here is for the elect. That's who's going to be protected. Because thou hast kept the word of my patience. Patience is suffering. We're going to suffer through this, but guess what? We know in Isaiah, or what is it? Isaiah 63? Isaiah 60, maybe? Let me see. Might be 65. Let me just look it up real quick. Okay, it is Isaiah 65 and 13. It says, therefore thus saith Yahweh the Most High, behold, my servants shall eat, but ye shall be hungry. Behold, my servants shall drink, but ye shall be thirsty. Behold, my servants shall rejoice, but ye shall be ashamed. Okay? So we know through the prophecies, we're still going to eat, even though the elect are going to eat. You might have a day or two where you might not eat in the beginning, but you're going to have, the Spirit is gonna feed us, man. The Spirit is may help us to endure. We're gonna eat. The Lord, you know how easy it is for the Lord to feed us, man. He could have a motherfucking turkey just walk in your backyard out of nowhere. He could have like Elijah, ravens fed him. What even in the wilderness, Moses cracked that stone, water came out of a rock. You don't think these miracles, because I told you that's a miracle on the left hand side, the device. But guess what? There's miracles on the right-hand side which are going to sustain the elect, man. You have to have the faith. If you don't have the faith and you don't have the belief, you're as good as dead. But if you put in and implement that faith that Yahweh Hashem Yahushai has given the elect, we're going to eat, man. We're going to drink. We're not going to be thirsty. It tells you right here. Okay? Let me get this real quick. I'll close out on this because I got to get moving here because I got to get to the plantation later. So we got Job 5 and 12. It says here, let me see. In verse Job 5 and 12, it says, he disappointed the devices of the crafty so that their hands cannot perform their enterprise. Okay? And enterprise, watch, let me grab this. Enterprise definition, it says a project or undertaking, typically one that is difficult or requires effort. Okay? And that's what this is. Their enterprise, Yahweh Bashem Yoshua is going to disappoint their enterprise and their device. They're not going to succeed in putting a micro C-hip or a M.O.T.B, mark of the beast, in everybody. They will succeed to a degree. But we know through the Holy Scriptures that, the elect, you can't deceive the elect. The elect is not going to take that device. Okay? He disappointed the devices of the crafty so that their hands cannot perform their enterprise. And remember that enterprise is it says a project or undertaking, typically one that is difficult or requires effort. And they know it's going to require effort. That's why they did a whole fucking test run with the jump shot, the vaccination, the ouchie Fauci. They knew there was going to be resistance to that. Well, they know there's going to be resistance to this mark of the beast, which they're showing you now. Apple's in on it, Neuralink's in on it. All these different micro C-hip places are producing, manifesting their product, getting ready to fucking let the prophecies jump out the page. I'll grab that real quick too, just while I'm keep bringing it up. It says, I will stand upon Habakkuk 2 and 2. I will stand upon my watch and set me upon the tower, and will watch to see what he will say unto me, and what I shall answer when I am reproved. And Yahweh Bashem Yoshai answered me and said, write the vision, make it plain upon tables, that he may run that readeth it. And the visions are these prophecies. All right? Habakkuk, just like all the other prophets, were commanded to write these visions down, write the prophecies down. Verse 3, for the vision is yet for an appointed time, but at the end it shall speak and not lie. And then we're at the end, and it's speaking. It said here that Apple is getting ready to put the brain implant in MFers at the end of this year. All right, when you go in on those videos, on those lessons, on the articles, it says, though it tarry, wait for it, because it will surely come, it will not tarry. See that? So it's not going to tarry. This enterprise, this wicked enterprise that the devil, Esau Edom, he's this is the time we're in, man. And you have the true watchmen, and we're those dogs that are barking. We're not those dogs that don't bark and don't warn you, right? We don't stay quiet. We're yelling from the housetops. We're yelling in the chief place of concourse. Wisdom crieth in the streets, you see? So let's get this, and I'll close out on this. Proverbs 22 and 3. It says, a prudent man foreseeth the evil and hideth himself, but the simple pass on and are punished. Okay, so a prudent man, that's basically the elect, because the word prudent, it means you consider the future. So we know the future because we're the prophets. We know the future because the Holy Spirit's dealing with us. And guess what? You goddamn right, we're gonna hide ourselves. We ain't gonna be available when they start making this thing mandatory. You know. But the simple pass on and are punished, right? Meaning the simple, you're gonna take that device and you're gonna be punished by Yahweh Bashem Yoshai. You know, the heathen, it goes without saying, but the 2/3, you're gonna get punished. Yahweh Bashem Yoshai gonna make you die like a heathen, put you to death because you're simple, and you're gonna get punished for that simpleton, being a simpleton, and taking that wicked device. Okay. Let's see if I can find something here. So you know what? I'm going to go ahead and close on that. I think the lesson is done and the point's been made. All right, so I want to give all the praise, all the glory, all the honor into Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, Bahashim, Rakakudash. Double honors goes out to the elder apostles of Great Millstone for teaching me the truth. Shalom to the elect. Oh, and I also want to acknowledge all the Akyam who are pushing with sincerity. All right, shalom to the elect.